So there are a few names that pop up in the Hellenic community, especially in the English-speaking Hellenic community, and this author is one of them. A lot of people owe a lot of credit to this particular author for getting them started in their path to Hellenic Polytheism and teaching them the one-on-ones when it comes to altars and so forth. I have never actually read this author's work before, but I was an admirer years ago. I would watch this author's YouTube videos and so forth, the Facebook pages, Temple of the Great Gods. And this author is Chris Aldridge, a name that I'm sure a lot of you already know and are curious about if you haven't read any of this author's works. And Chris Aldridge this year came out as trans, and this author now refers to herself as Michaela Aldridge. I don't know if you guys know that or not. So when I do reviews, I'm hesitant on using the past tense name of Chris Aldridge since she goes by Michaela Aldridge now as of 2021. So with all that said in the introduction, I'm sure you know this author, and the book, one of the books that was always recommended to me and a lot of people give good reviews to on Amazon is her book. What is it called? It is Hellenic Polytheism, A Personal Guide for Ancient Greek Practitioners by then Chris Aldridge. So this is the book and this is the person. And so let's review this book. What did I think? And we'll talk about that today. So again, this is a book that was always referred to as a beginner's guide book and on lists of people's favorite books. For when it came to somebody and for sources, for someone who didn't know anything about Hellenic Polytheism, what book would you recommend? And a lot of people brought this book up. So I thought, even though I'm years into it, why not pick it up and read it for myself and see, in my opinion, if it's worth suggesting to other people. And again, I am a respecter of this person because I would watch, and I still love watching Michaela Aldridge or Chris Aldridge's YouTube videos on YouTube. And we are actually Facebook friends and so forth. I follow Temple of the Great Gods, has a lot of good content, but again, I wanted to review this book. So my initial thought is it was pretty thick. And again, my initial thoughts, again, before I actually read the book, was I opened it up and it's thick, but I was a little turned off because it looked like it was double spaced. And I was like, so this is why it's pretty thick, because it's double spaced pages. But then I started to read the actual content of this work. And the more I read this book, I was superly, I don't know if that's a word, surprised how much I agree with what this author wrote. Michaela Aldridge wrote a work that I would highly recommend to people who know nothing about Hellenic Polytheism. It is probably the most basic, in a good way, book if you know nothing about Hellenic Polytheism and you just want some tips. You don't want a lot of history like you would find in maybe some other one-on-one books. You just you're in the boat of, I want to know more about the spirituality I'm interested in, but I don't know if I can handle all the information. This would be the book I would recommend, because it gives a lot of good tips and it gets right to the meat of what someone who starts on this journey would want to know. How to build an altar, how to pray, why to pray, who to pray to, and some suggestions of X, Y, and Z in those topics. it gives a lot of good tips and suggestions, and it really, again, really breaks it down. Like the chapters or beliefs and ethics, the Hellenic denominations, which this author goes into the different types of Hellenic polytheists you can be, and this author kind of labels, puts a name on people that believe these certain things. So the groups of kind of denominations, which is kind of an interesting thing to talk about. Some tips about other gods, spirits, and heroes, building your altars and shrines, individual shrines, sanctuaries, and temples, offerings and sacrifices, daily rites and religious activities. And it speaks to you in a very down-to-earth way that beginners want to be spoken to and that they can understand. Nothing complicated, no history lessons that are so advanced that you kind of get lost in the page, and it keeps you going. It makes you want to read the next page. And overall, I was really interested and impressed with this book. So this is one I would actually recommend for someone that wants, again, something very simple and easy to get into, to give you a nice start when it comes to Hellenic polytheism and to make it your own. That's what I'm always a fan of, are people saying that there is a history and a tradition, but that doesn't mean you have to be strict, and any kind of personal touch takes away and is not Hellenic polytheist. So we agree together, the author and I, that you can take tradition and make it your own and add some of your own personality to it, as long as it doesn't contradict or conflict with the tradition itself. And it is a living personal religion, and this author and I agree. And like I said, that's what I was really impressed with and fascinated with, is that how much we agree. So much so that we do the same things, even though I've never read this book, that the way we do rituals and make kernups and so forth, we do it the same way. So I can't argue with what's being taught, because I do the same thing. I thought it was interesting how making kernups, how the author says to bless the water with a prayer to Poseidon and Apollo. And that's how I've always done it. As far as I know, I was never told that. It just always made sense to me, because the purifying aspect of Apollo and salt water being with Poseidon, and the author suggests blessing the water to Apollo and Poseidon and stuff like that. And it's just very relatable. So yes, this is a good book. This is 101 beginner style. Like, again, there are 101 books out there, and the simplest one to get into would definitely be this. So definitely check this out. It is something worth checking out. But for people that have been in it for years, you won't really find anything new. But then again, that's not the intention of this book, and that's not who this author is speaking to. So there you go. Hellenic Polytheism, A Personal Guide for Ancient Greek Practitioners by Chris Aldridge. Definitely check it out. It is worth reading. And I'll see you guys. Bye.